We've been talking about miracles, and before we do that, let's just say our mission statement together as a church. If you don't know it, it's on the screen for you, or it's in your bulletin. We have a reason and a purpose. We gather together, and it's very simple. So let's just say this together. Journey Church, our mission is to see the kingdom of God in Victoria as it is in heaven. Amen. Give yourselves a hand. You sound great. I know we got a lot of family out. We had graduations this weekend. People all over the state probably watching people sweating, watching them walk across the stage, watching 5 hours worth of other people walk across the stage so you can get your 5 seconds of, yeah! Okay, can we go now? I get it. I remember. That's the one perk about being in a smaller town. I remember growing up in Houston when my brother graduated high school in Houston. Oh, my Lord, that thing was like an all day. It was rough. And then we moved to a small town, and I graduated in a really small town. That thing was over before, it was like, man, we're trying to fill time. Anyway, so just congrats to all of our seniors that have graduated. We'll pray for you here in a little bit, maybe, and send you off, right? We'll pray for you and kick you out of the house. We need your room. Anyway, so we've been talking about miracles the last few weeks, and Tara did an awesome job on Mother's Day sharing and kind of expounding on that, and we just kind of been down this path, and I started thinking about it, and I started realizing, like, what is one of the greatest miracles we could ask God for? What is one of the greatest miracles we could see happen in our life, or we could pursue, perhaps? Because we all have this idea of, like, oh, I want to see God do a miraculous healing, whether in my life or someone else's life, or I want to see God do some kind of miraculous provision, right? Because he's done that before as well. He's provided for people. There's a coin in the mouth of a fish. There's, when the disciples were fishing and they couldn't catch anything, and Jesus like, go put your nets out again. Then they're like overflowing multiple. But like, he's done stuff like that. He's healed the sick. He's raised the dead. He's cast out demons. He's set people free who were bound and destroyed. And so it's like, I want to see God do all that really awesome stuff, right? And it's not wrong for that. Like, you're not wrong for wanting to see that. If you do it yourself and fake it, say, look at God, well, then what's another conversation? But it's good to want to see God move in your life. It's good to want to see the fruit of the Spirit of God and the fruit of the presence of God being with you and being with us as a church family. But I think sometimes we miss out on what I feel is one of the most amazing miracles that God has done for us. And so that's what we're going to look at this morning. And so I don't always do this. I don't always give real official titles to messages, but I felt like today needed a title. And so if you're a note taker, this is the title. You can write this down. Today our title is Tears, Kisses, and Perfume. Tears, Kisses, and Perfume. You heard it right. AKA Tara, my wife. No, I'm kidding. We think about this, and so this will make sense in a little bit. One of the crazy things you see happen in our culture and our society is this feeling of people who are at higher levels or different levels than us. And so a lot of times, and it's around our whole world, right? We see people on TV, we see people on social media, and they're famous, and we're like, man, that's so cool. Because we all know them, that means that they're just really important, and it's a cool thing to want to get to know them. I remember as a kid going to Astros games and just yelling obnoxiously at players from the stands, like, hey! Because I wanted to be noticed by this famous person and get his signature on something. And I remember one year, we were there and it was opening day. Our dad had got us out of school early because he's a good father like that. And we went and saw the Astros, and we were there early, and they're warming up, and we got these little opening day hats they gave us, and we got a couple guys to sign it. We were so excited. One of them played for the Dodgers. I don't even know I was excited about that. He was an opposing team, but he was a baseball player, right? And another one was another Astros guy, but neither one of them were anybody important. They were just dudes that were, hey, I don't even know who they were. They probably work at Lowe's now. So I don't know. I'm just kidding. But like they weren't like stars, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they were just baseball players. That sounded so bad. That's not a bad thing. Oh, Steve-O, why do you do this to yourself? But they probably weren't multi-million-dollar contract baseball players, right? There's a big gap in sports sometimes. We got these guys making hundreds of millions, and then there's guys making like 100,000, which is cool. But like when you can't play ball no more, like that doesn't last forever. So, these were guys, I don't even remember their names. I don't even know their names. I think we tried looking them up and we're like, they weren't even like they were probably just brought up from minors or something. But we were just so excited because they were important, they were special. And we had the opportunity to get close to them, and they wrote their name on something and then gave it to us. And so then we owned something that they had touched. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so but this is like this culture that we have, like this, like I just want to get close to someone important. I want access to them. And if you have access to someone famous, like you're just like, wow, I am a big shot guy. Like this is so awesome. I must be something important. And we see that as a symbol of worth. And the less access there is to someone, generally the more worth we put on them. Like if they are difficult to access, if there's someone who it's going to be very hard for you to get an appointment or a meeting or a conversation with that person, then that must mean that they're really important because their time is so valuable, more so than yours. And they cannot be bothered to you just don't own enough worth to buy their time and have access to them. And so this is how we see people. This is how we see our world. We look and there's limited access. That's why, you go to work and the big bosses have private offices so they can close the door and you have limited access to them. That's why really famous people have security all around them so you can't get to them. You can only get so far and so close to them. It shows this level of worth on a person. And what's cool is the way God takes what we see in our life and he turns it upside down. And he's like, yeah, that's a cool story. We do the opposite around here and it's better, right? And so for us, limited access is equal to more worth, because if only so many people can get to that person, that must mean that you're special, that you can get to them. But what God does is he gives unlimited access, not because we have a level of worth, but because he's worthy of our accessibility to him. He is worthy of what we bring to him. So he does the opposite and he gives us unlimited access to him. I see that as a rather miraculous thing, because everywhere else it's the opposite. I mean, if someone is so great and so powerful and so important, you can't get to them easily. Only few people can. That's why we talk big when we know someone important. Oh yeah, I know so-and-so. Ooh, you know so-and-so? Wow, you must be special. You must be someone important. Hey, this guy knows so-and-so. Oh my God, so-and-so, right? But with God, it's different. He's just like, he has given us unlimited access. And that was not always the case. That was not always the way it was. And it was because he was holy, he was worthy of a certain type of access, worthy of a certain type of person to come before his presence. You had to be clean. You had to be righteous. You had to be pure and purified. Not just anyone could get into his presence. And so what Jesus did on the cross kind of turned that upside down and said, no, now we have unlimited access to him. And because of that, now all of us, we have that worth. We have that worth of Jesus. We have that worth of righteousness of Jesus, because we get to go to the Father just as Jesus goes to the Father. We get to sit before his throne in his presence just the way Jesus sits before him in his presence. That's why Jesus can say, I do what I've seen the Father do, and I say what the Father has said and tells me to say, because he's been close enough to see it and hear it. But you and I now have the ability to be close enough to see it and hear it. So we should be living our lives in a way that we say, I'm just doing what God does. I'm just saying what God says, and I can do that because I've been in his presence. And that's not something that everyone has always had. So I think that is something that we need to realize and prioritize. The healing stuff, like, it's good to go for healing. If you need it, go for it. If you need it, seek it, but you're going to find it in his presence. Like, you're going to find it in him because he has healing. Like, it's Jesus healing in his wings. It's just what happens when he walks. It's just what happens when he moves, healing happens. It's just what happens when he moves, provision happens. Peace happens when you're near him because he's just the Prince of Peace. He just is peace. He is light. If you're broken, if you're bound up, you just need to be near him because he cannot help but set people free because he is freedom himself. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. So instead of just trying to break the chains off of ourselves, and we should just seek his presence. And this is so simple that we would be able to live in this kind of a fullness simply by being near him. But that's the work and the miracle of God. So I want to look at a story in the book of Luke that I believe just kind of beautifully wraps this up and beautifully just depicts what we're talking about here. And I've probably taught from this before, and I don't know, I feel like every time I read through this, like many other places in the Bible, I just see different things about it. I just see different perspectives, and I just learn different stuff, so then I just say what God tells me. And so Luke chapter 7, let's just start reading here. I'll kind of stop and go a little bit, but we're just going to be in this passage. And Luke is, all the Gospels, just, it's so great. If nothing else, read the Gospels. Look at the life of Jesus. See what he did. See how he interacted with people. I love looking at how Jesus interacted with people because it helps me to know how he wants to interact with me. Like, it lets me know how he wants to speak to me and how he wants to correct me. Because sometimes people weren't expecting to be corrected by Jesus, but he did. He just has this way of doing it in such a, like, straightforward yet loving way. Like, he doesn't apologize about telling you what you need to stop doing and start doing and who you really are. But then he's got, like, just the love and the grace to wrap around you and say, but that's okay. Let's see where we're going here. So Luke 7, verse 36, Jesus has been going around. He's been healing people. He's been teaching and then, like, healing people, like going and teaching disciples and then raising people from the dead. Like, he's been doing all this stuff. He raised a widow's son back from the dead. They were in, like, the funeral recession itself. Like, they're walking by, and it's kind of what they did. They, had the body in the casket, and the people were mourning, and Jesus, like, sees it and has compassion for them and just stops and is like, hey, can I bring your son back to life? Go ahead, come on, mijo, get up. And, like, he gets up and it's just like gives him to his mom, right? So this is just, God's been doing this. And now, of course, some Pharisees have seen what he's doing. Some of them are still kind of confused about who he is. John the Baptist was even a little confused. He was like, sent some people to go ask Jesus, like, are you the person we've been looking for or not? Like, who are you exactly? And the Pharisees were kind of like, who are you? Are you just a prophet, or do we need to be concerned about you, right? So they're kind of checking him out. They're sizing him up a bit. So verse 36, one of the Pharisees asked Jesus to have dinner with him, so Jesus went to his home and sat down to eat. When a certain immoral woman from that city heard he was eating there, she brought a beautiful alabaster jar filled with expensive perfume. Now I want to stop for a second. So, an immoral woman. This is how the Bible describes this person. And as we go and we read on, we're going to see, I think she understood she was an immoral person by comparison to who Jesus was. And sometimes he has that effect where we think we're somewhere, but then we get closer to Jesus and we're like, oh yeah, never mind. I'm not anywhere near where I thought I was, right? It's that kind of when you get closer to something, it's just different. You realize how maybe far off you are or how much in the right place you are. And so this is kind of what was going on. And so she went because she heard he was going to be there. Now, I love this idea and this concept. I love how people so many times would just hear that Jesus was somewhere and they'd have to go and see for themselves. They have to go and see what's the deal. Because he was one of those people, they thought, this is someone I want to try and get access to. This is someone I think I want to be near. This is someone I want to be close to. And so she did this, but she didn't go because she thought she belonged there at that dinner party, right? Like she knew whose house it was. Like it was this Pharisee person's house, so she knew who was gonna be there, right? That'd be like me going on Facebook and seeing some people I know that are like kind of acquaintances, but maybe live like at a different class level than I do, and see that they're having something at their house. Hey, babe, you want to go? Like, we're not invited at all. And we just like show up at their house and be like, what are you doing here, right? So it wasn't like she thought she belonged there. It wasn't because she felt like she was worthy of sitting with Jesus. It was that she realized that Jesus was worthy of whatever she could bring him. She realized if I have the ability to do something for him, I have to do it. If I have within my ability to honor and bless him, I have to do it because he's worthy and I'm not. I don't get a free pass. I can't say Jesus was in town. Oh, that's nice. Maybe I'll see him next time he passes through town. She's like, no, I need to go and do something. I need to go. I don't know if I'm going to ask for forgiveness. I don't know if I'm going to tell him I'm sorry. I don't know. I just feel like I need to go. Something in her was pushing her to him. And it wasn't that she thought she was worthy. It was that she realized he was worthy of whatever that Spirit asked of her. She knew something must be done. So she went and she grabbed this beautiful alabaster jar filled with expensive perfume. All right, let's keep reading. Verse 38, then she knelt behind him at his feet, weeping. Her tears fell on his feet, and she wiped them off with her hair. Then she kept kissing his feet and putting perfume on them. So I want you to get a mental picture of this, because we have to put ourselves in this place, in this time. So it was custom in this time when someone brings you and invites you to eat at their house that you would recline at the table. And a lot of times in the Bible you hear that phrase, reclining at the table. Now when we think of reclining, we think of sitting down, feet up in front of us in a chair, reclining. When you think of dinner, you think of a table where you're sitting, but the way they did it there was like couches, pillows, kind of a deal around a table that wasn't as high up as like a lot of our tables, and they would literally recline. So they would lay forward and use like an elbow to prop themselves up with their heads near the table and their feet out behind them. Okay, this is how they sat around the table. I'm just like, that's so weird. That's not, you're like, well, didn't your arm fall asleep? I'd be constantly like, trying to eat like that, but I don't know. Maybe you get used to it. But I'm like, that sounds like the most uncomfortable way to eat a meal possible, right? But maybe that'll keep me from eating so much, so maybe I should try it. I'll still find a way. But this is how they, amen, woo, to gorging ourselves. So this is how they ate. And I say that because it mentions that she knelt behind him at his feet. So he's laying forward with his feet behind. So she's not at the table. She still doesn't feel like, I'm not going to go sit by Jesus like I belong there. I'm just going to be behind him at his feet. So she wasn't up with everyone else. She was at his feet. And as she knelt there, because that's the only thing she felt like she was worthy to be at, was at his feet. Some people have a deathly fear of feet, right? Some people just have a gag reflex to feet, right? And you're just like, don't put me near feet. But she felt like the lowest of him is better than the highest of me. The dirtiest part of him is cleaner than the cleanest part of me. Like, and I just want to be somewhere near him. I will just be at his feet. I will be the lowest I possibly can be. And she began to weep, and tears are falling from her face onto his feet. And she's like, oh my God, I got tears on his feet. And she's wiping it. But at the same time, she's probably also noticing he needs his feet washed. And I'm probably not worthy to really wash his feet, even as much of a servant would. But he's worthy of that. So I'll just sit here, and I think just that overwhelming joy and love from his presence, because it's who he is. He just exudes it, and when you get close to him, you just can't help it. You get close to him, and it's just, he affects you. And so she begins to cry and wipe the tears from his feet with her hair. And then she begins to pour perfume on them. And then in verse 39, when the Pharisee who had invited Jesus saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know what kind of woman is touching him. She's a sinner. He said it with some attitude. And then Jesus answered his thoughts. Because that's what Jesus does. He hears and then answers our thoughts. Because sometimes we think things that we don't want to quite put our name on, so we don't speak them out loud. There's still some deniability. I would never say that about you, but I'm thinking a girl, shoot. Right? Like, there's just certain things that, like, we're like, I'm not gonna, and Jesus is like, you can't hide from me. I know you. I created you. And I hear what's going on in that messed up head of yours. But you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and answer your questions. And a lot of times, this is how conversations with God go. Like, you're just kind of like thinking stuff, and he's like, nope. Or you're thinking something, and he's like, that's my job. Well, God, how am I going to do this? You ever just sit down and stress? You ever just sit there and just be like, you know what? I think I'm just sit here for a minute and just stress myself crazy. Right? Like, and you're just like, that just sounds like a good idea. And so you're just like sitting there and life is happening. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Right? And so you're just stressing about all this thing in life. And God hears that. I mean, even that much matters to him. It doesn't even matter enough for you to say something out loud, to do something about it, but it still matters enough to Jesus to give you an answer. Like sometimes we tell our kids, like, I can't help you if you don't tell me. I'm glad Jesus doesn't say it to me. He's like, you may not want to ask, but I know what you need. Let me go ahead and answer your thoughts. So Jesus, and the guy is wondering, if this man were a prophet, he would know. If he were a prophet, he would know who this chick is touching him. She's a sinner. He would be disgusted. He'd kick her, right? He'd be like, he'd embarrass her. He would do something to make her feel unworthy. He'd kick her out. He'd get us all riled up. If he were a prophet. And then Jesus answers his thoughts. I'm like, well, you didn't see that one coming, now did you? You weren't thinking, if he were a prophet, he would answer my thoughts. But Jesus went above and beyond, not just seeing who this woman was, but answering his thoughts. And so in doing so, he says, Simon, I have something to say to you. And I love how Jesus still like almost asked for permission. Like, hey, I'm about to jack you up. That okay? Like, I'm about to set you straight, son. Is that all right with you? No? I'm going to do it anyway, but I just want to ask, right? So he's like, I've got something to say to you. Go ahead, teacher. So Jesus told him this story. He says, a man loaned money to two people, 500 pieces of silver to one and 50 pieces to the other. That's kind of an equivalent to like $50,000 and $5,000 in like ours. So that's the level amount of debt we're talking here. So he loans this to them, but neither of them could repay him, so he kindly forgave them both, canceling their debts. Now, who do you suppose loved him more after that? And Simon answered, well, I suppose the one for whom he canceled the larger debt. Can't argue with that, Jesus, sir. That's right, Jesus said. Then he turned to the woman and he said to Simon. He turned to the woman while talking to Simon. He turns his attention to her. And he says, look at this woman kneeling here. When I entered your home, you didn't offer me water to wash my feet, to wash the dust from them. But she has washed them with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You didn't greet me with a kiss, but from the time I first came in, she has not stopped kissing my feet. You neglected the courtesy of olive oil to anoint my head, but she has anointed my feet with rare perfume. I tell you, her sins, and they are many. So he's still answering his thoughts. Yes, I know who she is. Her sins, they are many. He's looking at her. Her sins, and they are many, right? Yes, Jesus, they are. That's right. They have been forgiven. Because I think maybe if he would have been like, and her sins have been forgiven, she may be thinking, okay, cool. But he doesn't know, like, my sin. You know what I mean? Like, he knows some of my sins, like I've done some bad stuff, but he don't know he don't know what I have done. He doesn't know where I have been. Okay, you know my sins, Jesus, but you don't know my sins. Like, you don't know, like, that deep down stuff that I don't even like to think about, because people, like, that's like the next level sins. And Jesus is like, no. I know. They're many. I know. They're deep. I know you're ashamed. I know they're really, really bad. Like, bad. I get it. Those sins have been forgiven. So she has shown me much love. But a person who is forgiven little shows only little love. Then Jesus said to the woman, your sins are forgiven. And the men at the table said among themselves, who is this man that he goes around forgiving sins? And Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Now go in peace. There's a few things happening I want to look at. Number one, the perspective of this woman. She feels she's unworthy to sit at the table. She's just kneeling at Jesus' feet. And I know maybe you feel unworthy sometimes. You're like, I don't feel like I can really open up and worship God, because I'm like, he doesn't want to hear from me. Like, you don't understand. I got to get some stuff worked out first before I can really, like, go all in with God. He's going to think I'm a hypocrite. He's going to think I'm fake. He's going to think I don't deserve it. People are going to look at me and be like, oh, really? Now you think you can be all loved by God because of, I remember who you are. Like, don't think we don't know who you are. No, Jesus not only will take someone like that who feels that way. She didn't feel like she was worthy to even tap him on the shoulder and say, sir, can you pray for me? Sir, I need help. Sir, what do I do to be forgiven? She didn't even feel like she deserved an answer, but Jesus made her the topic of conversation at the dinner party. She wasn't even invited, and Jesus made her the point. You may think that you're not invited to this life with Jesus. You may think that you're not invited to a better life than the one you have built for yourself. But Jesus says, no, you're not only invited, you're the point of all of this. You're not only invited to redemption, you're the point of it. You're not only invited to be among the forgiven, you're the reason I took the stripes. You're the reason I took the nails. You're the reason I took the mourning and the reason I took the mocking. Like, it's you. It's about you. And this woman received forgiveness of her sins because of her faith. I'm like, so I want to just look at these simple things. Like, how do I do that? God, how do I have that kind of faith to go before you with whatever I have and feel like it's worthy? To feel like it's good enough? To feel like I can bless you in some way? Jesus was blessed by what she did. She thought he was ignoring her. He knew every single thing. He felt every single tear that fell from her eye and touched his foot. He felt every single one. And I think on the inside, if he wasn't showing it, he just smiled a little bit with every tear. He's like, there she goes. She's letting go. There she goes. Look, she's getting free right now. There she goes. She's understanding it's not about her, it's about me. There she goes. She's feeling my love for her. Sometimes you just got to let those tears flow. Jesus feels every single one. There's not a wasted tear out of your eye. Jesus knows every one. He knew exactly what she was doing. She thought she was just going to sneak in and maybe do a little something and bless him. And no, he made her the center of attention. He made her the topic of conversation. And those tears were her brokenness. And we look at brokenness sometimes as a bad thing. Like, I want to be broken and I feel bad and ashamed that I'm so broken. But God will use your brokenness to restore you. You can't really restore something until it's been broken. You can't make it new until it's been dragged through the dirt a little bit. Like, there is no restoration without brokenness. So don't be afraid of your brokenness. Just bring it to him. And he will use it to restore you. It's what he did with this woman. He used her brokenness. It was that brokenness in her, that guilt and that shame. She had to cry it out. She had to get it out and put it out at the feet of Jesus. And he said, come on, bring it on. Soak them feet, woman. Soak them. I'm about to restore you. Don't hold on to any of it. Let it go. Her tears. Kisses. I mean, that's a closeness. It's relationship. There's something that we do with our kids a lot, and we just love our kids. And they're so gorgeous. I can't believe how much they look like me. I'm like, this is amazing. Just like looking at two beautiful Steve-Os. Just kidding. I think the only thing I gave them was a tan. The rest is up to Tara. That's better. But every night we tuck them in and we pray with them. And Tara does this thing with Ada. And Ada likes, she wants to get kisses in every single kind. She wants the butterfly eyelash kisses. She wants the nose Eskimo kisses. She wants a regular kiss on the cheek and a kiss on the forehead. And then they started this thing where she wants thousands of kisses, where you just got to go crazy, just give a bunch of kisses. And that happens because of a relationship and a closeness. And we're comfortable doing that because of the relationship, because of the closeness. If you walk up to me in a little bit and say, Steve-O, what's up, man? Great message. You might get hit. Like, I'm gonna freak out. I'm gonna be a little disturbed, right? Because we don't have that level of closeness. In case you're wondering, you don't, right? But if my baby girl wants to do it, just bring it on, baby girl, bring it on. All the kisses, because there's a closeness. So when we look at that, Jesus is like, kissing my feet. You didn't do that, Simon. You didn't even greet me with just a normal, at that time, cultural kiss. But she went above and beyond. She hasn't even stopped because she just is realizing it's possible to be this close. And Jesus allowed it because Jesus will let you be as close as you want to be. If you want to stay at arm's reach from Jesus, he'll love you from arm's reach, but you're going to be at arm's reach. But if you want to be thousands of kisses close to Jesus, he will let you be that close because he has given you unlimited access. You can go to him at any point for anything. He wants that relationship. You can be as close to him as you want to be. And that's the beauty of it, is because he knows when you get close to him, what happens? Things fall off. Sin falls away. Sickness just kind of doesn't happen as much because Jesus is like, I don't do that stuff, man. Just stay close to me. You'll be good. I'll keep you healthy. Stress and anxiety just kind of melts away and doesn't even become a thought because Jesus is like, we about that peace up in here, man. I don't need that stress, that anxiety. That didn't do anything. You can't have that this close to me. You can have it maybe that close to me, but the closer you get, the more I'm going to affect your life. And so you can be as close to him as you want. In the perfume, it was her worship. It was her sacrifice. It's what she had to give. It's what she had to offer. And Jesus said that her faith had saved her. And a lot of times I think we get our faith confused with our strength. And we think our faith is about the strength that we have. But I believe that a real true faith humbles you, because it makes you realize I have to trust him. I have to trust that he's good. She didn't walk in there proud of her perfume jar, thinking, I brought a really great gift. She fell down in brokenness and cried. It was just all she had, but she had faith to feel like he was worthy of it. It's what she had to give. So our faith that saves us is also a faith that humbles us because it makes us realize who we are. But we see him for who he is. He's so worthy. When I look at this, I see two people with two perspectives. Simon, the Pharisee, thought he was Jesus' equal. He thought, I'll invite him to my dinner table. I'll invite him to come recline as I recline. I'll invite him to come to my house because I want to check him out and see what he's all about. And then I'll decide if he's a prophet or who he is. Because Simon was seeing Jesus as his equal. But the woman, she saw Jesus to be holy. She saw Jesus to be worthy of whatever she could bring him. So Simon reclined at the table with Jesus, but she bowed down at his feet. And Jesus honored the one, not who thought he had exclusive access. I'm a big shot. I can invite this Jesus guy to my house for dinner. We'll see what he's about. And then I'll tell all my friends, yeah, I had Jesus over. He's okay, I guess. He's off about a few things, but he's all right, I guess. That was his plan, I think. To vouch for him or say, nah, don't worry about him. He's nothing. Let's keep an eye on him. But this woman said, no. If I have an opportunity to be near him, I got to give him what he's worthy of. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, with this access we have to the presence of Jesus, what will we do? What are you going to do with the access you have to him? Are you going to invite him into your life so you can check him out? Let me see if I'm okay with this Jesus thing. Or are you just going to lay it down at his feet? Are you going to vouch for him in a dignified way? Or are you going to allow yourself to be broken before him? The choice is yours, but let me tell you something. Go the broken route. Go the broken route. Don't go before him prideful. Don't go before him skeptical. Just go before him as you are. If you're broken, be broken. If you're lonely, be lonely. If you're doubtful, be doubtful, but be near him. He'll take care of that, I promise. Let's pray.